Have you ever wondered why peace sometimes arrives so late in life? Why the heart carries decades of noise only to fall silent in a single unexpected moment? At 72, I sat on a weathered park bench, and what happened there changed the way I understood regret, forgiveness, and the meaning of time itself. By the end of this journey, you may see your own life through different eyes. Have you ever asked yourself how much a single lifetime truly weighs? Not the numbers written in calendars or the candles on a birthday cake, but the invisible burden carried inside a chest of decisions postponed, of words swallowed, of moments that slipped away forever. That morning, the park was wrapped in a gentle stillness. The air carried the cool breath of dawn, tinged with the smell of damp soil and fallen leaves beginning to fade into the earth. The trees bent slightly under the wind, bowing with a grace that seemed ancient, as though they knew secrets I had forgotten. From far away, children's laughter drifted like faint bells through the air, light and fleeting. But here, on this bench beneath the trees, I was completely alone. I let my body sink into the wooden seat, the planks pressed against my back, firm, unyielding. Yet it wasn't the bench that burdened me. It was the 72 years I carried within my bones. The weight of time does not fall all at once. It gathers little by little, settling on the soul like layers of dust. Memories rose uninvited. The arguments that ended not with forgiveness, but with slammed doors. The letters I drafted and folded away, never sent. The faces of those I loved too late, when my words had already lost their chance to heal. They came to me, not as images, but as sensations, heat in my chest, tightness in my throat, the sting of regret sharper than any cold morning air. I ran my fingertips along the rough armrest of the bench, feeling its grooves and scars. Each line in the wood seemed like the wrinkles etched into my own skin, marks left by storms weathered in silence. The wind stirred, brushing my face like a hand too gentle to belong to memory. And for a moment I wondered, was it trying to comfort me, or remind me of how fragile I had become? For decades, I had lived with my eyes fixed backward, walking with my head turned toward the roads already crossed. Every mistake replayed itself like a broken song that refused to fade. Regret, I realized, is a peculiar weight. It grows heavier the longer you hold it, but in its strange familiarity, it can feel safer than the emptiness of letting go. To cling to regret is to cling to what is already gone, and yet how often I had done exactly that. The morning unfolded slowly, as though the park itself wished to teach me patience. A bird descended, small and unafraid, landing near my shoes. Its feathers quivered in the breeze, delicate and alive, and then, with effortless trust, it lifted itself into the sky again. I followed its flight with my eyes, envy rising in my chest. That bird had no past to regret, no years dragging behind it. For 72 years I had lived as though peace were a treasure buried far ahead, waiting for me at the end of some distant road, hidden in one final act of redemption. But what if that belief had been my prison all along? The silence around me deepened. It was not empty, it was full, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. It felt like the pause before a hymn begins, or the moment of surrender, when one finally inhales after years of starving for air. My heart slowed. I closed my eyes. Behind my eyelids, in the soft darkness, a question surfaced, quiet yet insistent. Had I lived too long in the shadows of what should have been? The thought pierced me, not as despair, but as revelation. My regrets were not chains fastened by the past. They were shadows I had kept alive by refusing to step into the light. And then, like the striking of a match in the darkness, another thought flickered. What if the peace I had sought all my life was not waiting ahead of me, but already here, woven into the very silence surrounding me, waiting only to be noticed? I sat with my eyes closed, and suddenly the park was no longer just outside me. It became an echo chamber of my own life. The breeze that stirred the leaves was not merely wind, it was memory. Each rustling sound carried a weight, like the turning of old pages. Each bird's call rose into the air and then fell again, reminding me of moments I thought I had forgotten, but had only buried. The bench pressed firmly against my back, grounding me, while the air smelled faintly of damp earth and wood smoke drifting from a distant chimney. The fragrance triggered something in me, the kitchen sink at 58, when I whispered forgiveness into the faucet's steady trickle. Forgiveness not for others but for myself. I had looked into the mirror above that sink and said words I had never dared to before. You did what you could. But regret is a stubborn guest. It lingers even when invited to leave. I remembered 63, the year of the teapot. A note from her, short, delicate, written with hands that trembled. Let go, she had written. 2 words. I tried, but the note itself became something I held onto too tightly, as if letting go of the paper meant letting go of her. And so regret grew again, twining around me like vines gripping the side of an abandoned house. Here on this park bench, I asked myself a question that shook me more than I expected. Why do we polish our mistakes as if they were treasures? Why do we carry them so carefully, protect them, even admire their sharp edges, when all they do is cut us over and over again? The answer did not come as words, it came as silence. The silence of the bench, the silence of the trees, the silence of 72 years exhaling at once, as if the park itself sighed with me. The silence was not empty. It was alive, full, almost sacred. In it I heard something deeper than regret. I heard release. I felt the wood of the bench beneath my palms, warm now, though moments earlier it had seemed cold. I realized it was not the bench that changed. It was me. My skin, my blood, my breath, all had shifted. Regret had been holding me hostage, and in that moment I loosened the ropes, even if only slightly. The leaves above me began to fall one by one, their descent neither hurried nor delayed. They floated with a grace I envied. No struggle, no resistance. They let the wind take them where it pleased. And then it struck me. Perhaps regret is not meant to be carried at all. Perhaps it is meant to be released, just like these autumn leaves, falling, not fighting, dissolving back into the soil to nourish something new. The thought filled me with both relief and fear. Because if I let go, what would remain? Who would I be without the stories of failure, without the comfort of sorrow I had polished for so long? The silence seemed to answer, you will still be you, but lighter. I opened my eyes slowly, as though waking from a dream. The park looked different, the colors sharper, the air cleaner, the light softer on my face, yet I knew the world had not changed. Only my eyes had begun to clear. A shiver ran through me, not of cold, but of recognition. Peace was here, closer than breath, yet it still trembled like a candle flame before the wind. Would I be able to protect it this time? Would I dare to trust it? I looked at the trees shedding their last golden leaves and thought, maybe my time has come to shed too, to release without resistance, to see who I might finally become at 72. The sun moved as if it had been waiting for me. A single shaft of light broke through the tangled branches overhead and landed on the bench, not where I sat, but beside me. Empty, yet not empty. I turned toward it. For an instant, the air thickened, as if memory had taken shape. My wife's laughter, faint as chimes in the wind, my brother's steady voice, the warmth of friends who had slipped quietly beyond the horizon of years. Even my younger self sat there, hopeful, unbroken, unafraid. Tears gathered without my permission. My throat tightened. The light did not blind me, it revealed me. I saw that the bench was not just wood and iron. It was an altar, an invitation, a place where the invisible world pressed its hand gently into the visible. I touched the worn armrest, tracing the grooves carved by time, and it felt as though I was shaking hands with the unseen. My skin prickled, my breath slowed. Every sound of the park, the rustle of leaves, the distant laughter of children, the rhythmic coo of a dove, wove into a hymn, not a hymn of endings, but of presence. Is this what remains? I whispered. The question echoed, though no lips moved to answer. And then the thought struck me like a bell. What if death is not the closing of a door, but the widening of a window? What if absence is another form of presence, quieter, but no less real? The sunlight brightened, filling the bench with golden warmth. It spread like water across the ground, seeping into the cracks of stone, reaching toward my feet. And in that embrace, I understood. Peace is not the absence of pain. It is the embrace of everything. The laughter and the silence, the love and the loss, the living and the gone. The air smelled of pine and earth, rich and grounding. I closed my eyes and inhaled, and it was as if I were breathing in every season of my life at once. Spring's beginnings, summer's heat, autumn's letting go, winter's stillness. Each breath was a lifetime, and each lifetime folded gently into the next. I had always believed regret was a chain. But here on this bench I saw it differently. Regret was a shadow cast only because there was light. Without light, there could be no shadow. And without shadow, how would I ever recognize the brilliance of what remained? The sunlight shifted, now touching my face. Warmth spread across my skin, and I felt myself softening, no longer resisting, no longer clutching at what was already part of me. My hands stopped trembling. My chest loosened. For the first time in decades, I felt not weighed down by years, but lifted by them. I looked again at the empty space beside me, and I did not see loss. I saw fullness, a fullness that could never be erased by time or distance. Love, it seemed, had never left. It had only changed its shape. And then came the most unsettling thought of all. If love never leaves, then neither do we. The park fell utterly still, as if holding its breath with me. The silence did not frighten me this time. It held me. It told me that everything I had lost still lived here, waiting patiently in the turning of the light. I pressed my palm against the bench and whispered, "Then maybe peace is not ahead of me, nor behind me. Maybe it has always been right here, sitting beside me, waiting for me to notice." The shaft of sunlight narrowed, but its glow remained inside me, as if lit from within, and in that moment, I knew. I had been given a glimpse, not of endings, but of beginnings. In that light I understood. Peace is not the absence of pain, it is the embrace of everything. The sun climbed higher, weaving light through the branches, scattering diamonds on the dew that still clung to the grass. The park was no longer silent. Children chased each other with unsteady steps. Dogs barked, leaping into the air as if gravity had been momentarily forgotten. A mother hummed softly to her baby, the melody drifting toward me like a blessing carried on the breeze. Yet I remained still, my body on the bench, my spirit between worlds. Not the world of youth I had lost, nor the horizon of endings I had feared. But this vast, quiet middle. The bench was no longer just wood and iron. It was a threshold, an altar, a mirror that reflected not my face but my soul. Here the past did not vanish. It leaned in, gently, like a friend I had misjudged. And the future, once terrifying, softened into something I no longer needed to control. For decades I had believed peace would come with achievement, or with closure, or with answers that explained everything. But at 72, I discovered it was simpler. Peace was not thunder. It was not revelation. It was the quiet exhale after holding your breath too long. I thought of those who had walked beside me and were now gone. My wife, whose laughter had once filled this same park. My brother, whose absence still pulsed like a phantom limb. Friends scattered like autumn leaves. Even my younger self, reckless, hopeful, wounded, sat with me now. None of them were absent. Love had never departed. It had only changed form. The wind carried the scent of earth and rain, and for the first time I felt no urge to chase anything more. No need to polish regret, no hunger to rewrite the story. The years, heavy as they had been, were no longer burdens. They were roots, anchoring me to the ground of this moment. I touched the worn armrest once more, my palm pressing into its grooves as though shaking hands with the invisible, and I asked the question that had lingered since the light broke through the trees. If peace is here, how do I carry it beyond the bench? The answer was not words but presence, a warmth in my chest, a stillness in my breath. Peace was not something to carry away, like a souvenir. It was something that remained, quietly waiting in every place, every moment, so long as I stopped long enough to notice. At 72, I no longer ran from the years behind me. I no longer wrestled with the time ahead. I rested in them, not above life, not beneath it, but within it. Slowly, I stood. My knees protested, as they always did, but my spirit was lighter than ever. I placed my hand on the bench one final time and whispered, "Thank you." The bench would stay, silent, steady, patient. It would wait for the next soul heavy with years, ready to unburden themselves into its silence. And when they sat down, when they finally stopped running, they too would discover what I had found. I walked away, without looking back. For the first time, there was no need. The park stretched before me, vibrant with sound, light, and life. Every child's laugh, every falling leaf, every breath of wind carried the same message. Peace is not found in the future, nor in the past. It waits silently in the place where you choose to sit and finally let go.